Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. As always, I'm Josiah, and joining me again, as always, is Travis. Travis, how's it going, man? How's your week going so far as we record this? It's a Tuesday, so we're not quite far enough into the week to get a full gauge of how it's going. But so far, is it so good?
Yeah, can't really complain. We're, still figuring stuff out and moving forward with all kinds of stuff in our business. That's what business is. For those on our YouTube channel, you can see behind me, there's like all these little, bubbles with arrows pointing to them.
He's got like flow charts and like just making it all flow.
It feels like my flow charts have flow charts at this point. It's like everything's we're trying to just figure it all out, and it's hard to wrap your brain around some of this stuff. And then you get down the road and you realize, oh man, but what about this? And that's not going to work. We need to change the way we're doing that. Or, oh no, now that VA needs to be trained in a specific way to do this other task that we weren't really, thinking that they would have to do. And, there's just little things like that keep coming up. So, but yeah, we're still moving forward and figuring things out.
Yeah. It always seems like you do have to constantly pivot in what you're doing. And for those of you that are listening, we're using a new software and we have a soundboard. So I'm going to take this moment. I'm going to look directly into the camera. So no glasses. So there's no ring light reflection, and tell you, I'm so sorry that this is the first episode in which we have a soundboard, and we're gonna see what this thing can do. We're taking it out for a spin, a new recording software for video and audio, see what it can do. But again, to your point, Travis, a lot of businesses constantly having to just kind of morph as it goes. And I think the last time I was in your office, that flow chart, that whiteboard was dedicated to figuring out how Order Desk was going to work. And so it seems like there's always a flow chart of some sort behind you, which is good because that's what you need to figure stuff out, right? It's the best way to visualize what's happening. So, man, so this episode 32 of the Print on Demand Cast, which is awesome. We're 32 episodes into this thing, and as we record it, March is almost over, right? This is going to drop March 31st. So that means that it's probably too late to tell our listeners about tips and tricks on how to get good Easter designs out on the market, because Easter is literally in like four days or something like that. Yeah. So we thought for this week, we would talk about May holidays. And it's going to be the subject of this week's Point of Interest. So Travis, why don't you kind of give people the rundown on what May as overall as a month, what is the holiday? I guess not the holiday, but just more of an awareness type thing when it comes to the month of May.
Yeah, May is mental health awareness month. So while that obviously there's a lot of things you can do in the mental health arena, with different designs and different things you could put out there, even campaigns you can run, it's specific ways you can really do a lot of things with that. You do need to kind of watch your mind your
P's and Q's.
Mind your P's and Q's, because you don't want to cross any boundaries that any of these channels that we're selling these print on demand products have set. Like Walmart, they're pretty much don't talk about mental health at all. And to be fair,
do you think that's because I know a lot of platforms have kind of like you can't profit off of a tragic event or something like. Does that kind of fall in that purview of like you can't really profit off of someone's actual condition, mental health condition? Do you think that's what that's about?
I think so. I think it's also, Walmart covering their butt, because they don't want to get in trouble by any organization that has to do with mental health. And I mean, because they are a huge organization, and obviously I'm sure they get lawsuits all the time aimed at them. So it's, there's a little bit of just trying to cover your P's and Q's by Walmart.
Right.
And the same thing with Amazon, although what I have found, just kind of in general terms, Walmart is a little more strict, not necessarily just with mental health, but just in general, they're a little more strict with what they'll allow on their catalog. And then Etsy's kind of the Wild West. You go on there and you see, baby Yoda designs and crap, and all kinds of infringement just left and right. I do think, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but I do think over time they're going to start cracking down on that, because they're going to have to. It's the same thing. It's the reason why Walmart and Amazon have these rules, is because they've gotten too big and they just don't want to have to deal with all of these other issues that are going to be coming at them by allowing infringement on their platforms. But that's a whole nother thing. Back to mental health awareness month. That's kind of the overarching the theme of the month. But beyond that, there's several days that you could potentially target in the month of May, that if you want to kind of get out in front of this thing, you need to be designing, sending in products, or creating listings right now for these different days. So let's go through a few of them.
Right. Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about how now there's a day in May that is dedicated to perhaps one of the greatest franchises, movie franchises in the history of ever, which would be Star Wars Day, which is May the 4th, which is just a nice play on May the 4th be with you. But yeah, May the 4th is Star Wars Day. And again, this is one of those things where make sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and you mind your P's and Q's, because like we just talked about with mental health, where apparently May is just the month to just really focus in on making sure you're not infringing on anybody's IP. And so that's not even just a May thing. That's just like a common sense POD business thing. But especially on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, there's some things you can probably do creatively to create designs that kind of reference it, or you can and fans of Star Wars will understand the messaging, what you're going for. But Star Wars Day is May the 4th. So that's always ones you can take advantage of. Travis, what's another one people can make sure to keep on their calendar?
Yeah, I know. Cinco de Mayo is, obviously May 5th, and that's a huge holiday. And amen.
I celebrate it.
Amen. People. There you go. The soundboard. My goodness. So yeah, Cinco de Mayo.
It worked.
The Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. You could do anything around the Hispanic culture, really. You could do anything from, tacos to burritos, lots of food, lots of food, items you could, potentially design.
The best thing the Mexican culture gave us, besides myself, to all of you listeners, is the food and tequila.
And tequila as he takes a drink from his glass.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, obviously tequila, there's a ton of different things you can design. Funny puns for t-shirts and drinkware, obviously. A lot of different options there. Of course, the biggest holiday, if you will, or at least gift giving holiday, I would say, is next on the list, Mother's Day, May 9th. And
would you say it's the mother of all the holidays?
Ooh, I would say it's a mother of a holiday.
It's the mother of all holidays in the month of May.
Exactly.
Anyway. But yes, this year Mother's Day is May 9th. And of course, it is notorious for gift giving. So if you can put anything from I love my mom, or you're the best mom, or thanks mom, you've always been like a mother to me. That grandma, aunts, great grandmas. I mean, it's unilateral, for most women in the country. It's applicable, and it's a huge gift giving holiday. So and if you can get your stuff on, especially stuff like home decor, more than just a t-shirt, like a coffee mug, a sign, a tea towel, a pillow, something that you know that mothers love, and make your designs available on those things is almost a guaranteed win.
Yeah. And in a lot of gifts, when we give gifts, we think about, um, what the person having the gift, like if Josiah's going to gift me this black tumbler here, and he's got a design he wants to put on it, he's thinking about what is Travis going to like having on his mug as he drinks out of it, or his
Right.
tumbler as he drinks out of it day in, day out. So I'm not
Right.
necessarily gonna like having "I love you, Dad," for Father's Day on this
Right.
mug. And if
Right.
Josiah gives it to me, I'm definitely not going to like that,
It's
because
gonna
that's
be
just weird.
weird.
Although,
I would put,
who's
to
your
be fair,
daddy?
I'd put daddy. Exactly.
We were right on the same wavelength there.
Yes, we were.
But I think you of all the days in the year when you're going to be giving a gift, this is the one that you can kind of fudge on that rule of thumb by. Like,
Yeah.
if I give my mother a mug and I say, I love you so much from your son, or
Right.
something like that. Um, it does mean a little bit more. It's a little different, I guess, than the rest of the
Sure.
holidays. You know
Sure.
what I mean? And then the other thing I'll say
Yeah.
about Mother's Day is that a lot of a lot of women are going on Etsy and Amazon and wherever to buy something for their mother, but at the same
Yeah.
time, Father's Day is right down the the month or so away, and
Yeah.
so
It's coming soon. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
ordering for their mother and their father at the same time. And so if you can have your Father's Day stuff
Sure.
up there too, you might get two sales, one for mom and one for dad right
Simultaneously.
then.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? I mean, make it easier for your customer. Have something for mom. Have something for dad. And also maybe even a bundle thing for mom
Yeah.
and dad. I mean, who knows? But
Hmm.
it's something that could definitely make it easier for your customer to find that gift. Another major holiday that's at the end of the month of May is Memorial Day.
Hmm.
And that's another one of those things where it can be as simple as anything patriotic, an American flag, or you know,
Right.
thank you for your service, or anything like that, honoring veterans, honoring those who have served the country. That's another one that you can kind of paint it with a broad brush and do something that's patriotic, and it qualifies for that Memorial Day holiday for people to
Hmm.
want to gift or to shop for, for
Hmm.
themselves. So
Yeah, it's
any
another one of
thoughts on
those
Memorial
things.
Day?
It's another one of those things you really want to kind of be careful about, not profiting on tragedy, of course, because we're,
Sure.
and really thinking through your messaging on that particular day, particularly if you're going to do like a Facebook campaign or something along those lines.
Right.
Really thinking through those things. You'll be glad you did. Not only will your customers appreciate it, but the platforms you're advertising on, or producing
Sure.
products for, they're going to require that of you to not
Yeah.
take it too far, I guess. So just be careful with
Yep.
that. And then there's a few other days in May, and back in, what was it, episode 21, I think we had a huge
Yes.
list.
Oh my goodness. We had a comprehensive list, and we say comprehensive because I mean, a little sneak peek behind the scenes here, breaking kayfabe here. We just had a sheet of random holidays, and we would
Hmm.
just scroll and stop and name one. Essentially, is what we did for that particular episode. But it is just all of the crazy ancillary holidays
Yeah.
that you could possibly imagine. I mean, just
Yeah.
wild stuff. So I feel like these that we're mentioning obviously are a little more well known or prominent, but there are a
Hmm.
couple other, ones that are kind of ancillary on the side holidays. Travis, tell us about the first one
Yeah.
that people might not know about.
Yeah, so Victoria Day is May 24th, and I'll admit I didn't know what Victoria Day was until I found it on a particular list that we were looking at. But it's a Canadian holiday, and so if you are selling print on demand in Canada, it would make sense to have some
Sure.
Victoria Day products up there, and probably wouldn't be that difficult to research kind of what would be an appropriate design
Yeah.
for that day.
Yep, absolutely. And the second one that you guys may not know about, but would probably really easy to sell, is a National Wine Day, which is May 25th.
Hmm.
Of course, the female demographic of your customer base is gonna love wine. There's already
Right.
so many wine related designs out there. at the moment. And so National Wine Day is something you can take advantage of because everyone loves wine. And did you know, Travis, that Snoop Dogg even has his own brand
Wow.
of wine?
Hmm.
It's called Nine Crimes. Yeah, I
That's
found that out.
appropriate.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is.
Hmm.
So that's this week's, the more you know. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
We're here to educate folks. So Snoop Dogg even has a brand of wine, just goes to show you everyone loves wine. Everybody. So
Yeah.
those are the holidays to look out for in May. And we are going to wrap this point of interest section, easy for me to say, up. So Travis, let's move on to the main event of the evening, something that we had kind of volleyed back and forth, traded some ideas about what we would talk about, one of which we'll get to in weeks to come. But this week's main event, why don't you tell people and inform the listeners what we're going to be talking about as the main event of this episode?
Yeah, this week we're going to talk a little bit about which print-on-demand company you should choose. And I say should. That is a strong word. And I don't know that you necessarily should choose one of these three companies, but it's at least gives you an idea of where to start,
Sure.
and some comparing and contrasting just a few of the options, because we're going to be talking specifically about Gooten, Printify, and Printful. And these are three of the larger companies that do print on demand, and they also integrate with different e-commerce platforms and channels that we would potentially sell on. But there are so many more print on demand companies out there. As a matter of fact, I know of two that are talking on this podcast right now.
Right now, yeah.
So, it's definitely we're go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that they're the two print on demand companies that are perpetually sponsoring this show.
Exactly. But obviously, these are three of the largest ones. There are so many options out there these days when it comes to print on demand, and it really comes down to deciding what's most important for you and your business and your brand. And so, let's just kind of dive in, Josiah. I don't know how long we're gonna need to kind of contrast these
Sure.
things. This may be a shorter episode, but let's jump in and kind of see what the differences are between these three companies in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about, again, Gooten, Printful, Printify. Of the three, Printful has been in business the longest. It's got 2 years on the other two. As far as t-shirt costs go, this is just based on a Bella Canvas 3001 on that particular item. Gooten, you can get one fulfilled for $8.90. Printify for $6.76, but there is a caveat there, which we'll get to here in just a second. And Printful is $12.95. So, Travis, when I say there's a caveat when it comes to Printify offering $6.76, what am I talking about there? What should the listener be aware of instead of suddenly being super intrigued at that $6 price point, which is granted very intriguing, but there is some strings and some conditions attached to that dollar amount.
Yeah, the difference between Gooten and Printful and then Printify is that Printify is a marketplace for print-on-demand companies. And so whereas Printful, and as far as I know, Gooten as well, they produce their own products. They have their own fulfillment centers in different places, and we'll talk about like where those locations are later, but they have their own locations, whereas Printify uses companies that are already like we could potentially be suppliers on Printify if we jumped through their hoops and did all that stuff.
Right.
And so each of those companies on Printify has a kind of a grade, if you will. They have different. Their average production time is based on a set of orders, for I'm not sure how long that set of orders is, but how quickly they get those orders out. So you can see that on Printify. But in the case of the Bella 3001, there's 23 different companies that, at least at the time of this recording, that sell the 3001, and you can you can pay as much as what, 12 something, I think, on Printify.
Mm-hmm.
And then the least, or 1353. Well, that's Canadian. So that's probably a little less in US dollars, but because that's a Canadian fulfillment company. That's the other thing. You
Sure.
have to kind of watch where you're actually getting the product from. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Printforia charges $13.55 and $4 shipping. They
Yeah.
only have 4 colors, but then you scroll down a little bit lower, and Awkward Styles, which is a U.S. based fulfillment company, they have 14 colors, and they sell that Bella Canvas 3001 for $6.76, but their average
Sure.
production time is 3.5 days. So there is a
Right.
trade off there. The other thing that you have to consider when you're looking at Printify is that, well, man, that price is great for Awkward Styles, but how is their quality? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally
Right.
want to order something from Awkward
You're
Styles.
you're gonna want 23 samples for the 23
Almost,
vendors, including awkward, because you're gonna be dealing with 23 different print qualities because you can't guarantee that Awkward
potentially, yeah.
Styles is gonna print the same quality as the Canadian fulfillment center. So yeah, you're gonna want to know, like you said, you're gonna
Mhm.
want something tactile to feel to see what Awkward Styles is gonna produce for you.
Exactly. And then, you have to decide which colors you want. So, for instance, when I did use Printify for a while when I was drop shipping, and I used Dream Junction. And I'm just trying to scroll here on my screen to see where Dream Junction is, because they have, I want to say, let's see, they have 60. Now, of course, I can't find them now. There they are. They have 52 base colors for the 3001, the Bell Canvas 3001.
Yeah.
They're $8.46. Their average production time, again, at the time of recording, is 1.86 business days, and they'll do a front or a backside print. And their shipping is $4, and then another $2 for each additional item. So, I mean,
Right.
that's a little bit more money, but I have more base colors. They have a little bit shorter production time. So maybe I get a sample from the Dream Junction. Maybe I get a
Sure.
sample from that Awkward Tease or whatever it was called, the cheapest one. And then maybe I choose another one. And then I decide between those three. I'm going to have to
Right.
decide which company I want to start producing my print on demand products, because every time something sells, you have to come in here and you have to basically design that product for that sale. Now, once you've done that
Right.
and you've tied that SKU to the Dream Junction, let's say, every time that SKU sells, they'll print it for you and you don't have to come and do that again. But of course that's dependent on color and size. So for a while
Yeah.
you're going to be in here creating blanks, unless you want to do it all up
Sure.
front, which is probably a little bit of overkill. But yeah, so it's a huge caveat with Printify. Not knowing print quality, not knowing a specific production time that is acceptable, because it's kind of all over the
Yeah.
board with this stuff.
Sure. And if one particular item goes out of stock, right? If you're like, hey, I'm going to use Awkward Styles because they're the cheapest. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if Awkward Styles runs out of a color and you have to pivot to another producer, then are you factoring in like what does that look like for you? Because you're gonna go to another fulfillment, one of the
Right.
23. Are they going to charge the same? What's the fulfillment center, or what's the fulfillment time? What's the quality? So there's lots of stuff to keep in mind beyond just that $6.76 cent price point that seems so attractive.
Exactly.
Another thing that we want to keep in mind when it comes to these three particular options is storefront integrations. Um, what store you're using, and will this particular print on demand fulfillment center work with that to fulfill seamlessly to make it super easy. So
Mm-hmm.
Gooten will integrate with Shopify, Etsy, WooCommerce, and they do have an API, which I assume is if it's something that they don't, if it's not one of those three, there could be the potential that you could have someone, a developer,
Mm-hmm.
kind of connect with their APIs and make it
Right.
work for you, which would be a
Yeah.
little bit more legwork, but it's doable. I'll skip to Printify. They do Shopify, WooCommerce, Etsy, eBay, Wix, Press2Shop, BigCommerce, and they also have their own API.
Mm-hmm.
And Printful, man, they do.
A
What
ton.
don't they do would probably be the easiest way to do this, but Shopify, Bandzoogle, Etsy, WooCommerce, Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, Ecwid, BigCommerce, PrestaShop, Weebly, Amazon, eBay, Big Cartel, Wish, Magento, Store Envy, Bonanza, 3D Cart, Launchcart. So that is
Yeah.
just a wide array of integrations that they make available for you. So I feel like in this particular category, Etsy definitely, Printful definitely has the leg up because of all of the integrations that they have to offer.
Right. Yeah. I think for most of our listeners, it's really going to be, the shopping, the actual channels that they're worried about integrating with.
Right.
So like WooCommerce is going to be used if you have like a WordPress site and you're using
Mm-hmm.
WooCommerce to plug into that. So a lot of people who are doing print on demand shops are using Shopify, which all three integrate with.
Yep.
A lot of them are doing
Yep.
Etsy, which all three integrate with. The one that I do see missing from Printify and Gooten is Amazon,
Yeah.
which
Totally.
is a big
That could be huge. Yeah. It's huge.
yeah, big seller. And then the one that's missing from all three of them is Walmart. And I know,
Mm-hmm.
obviously from firsthand experience that you can sell a lot of print on demand stuff on Walmart. Um,
Yes. Yeah. You
so
can.
yeah, so there's some things to consider when you're looking at these three and what storefronts they actually integrate to. So it's pretty interesting,
Right.
actually.
Yeah. It is, and I agree with you that I feel like the most pressing matters for you, the listener, would be the storefronts. Shopify most
Hmm.
common, Etsy, Amazon, which the majority of these guys do integrate with Shopify, Etsy, like you said. So it really is just whatever one you like best. In all of this, I should say, it comes down to your preference. Even though we
Yeah.
say this one might have the leg up, or we feel like this one might have the advantage in this particular category, I encourage you to go and dig in more research wise than what we're saying here on this particular episode to figure out which one will actually fit best for you and your business. So
Hmm.
please do the work. Don't just take our word for it. We encourage you to go in and dig in yourselves. Another category would be let's see, fulfillment type. So Gooten has in-house printing and marketplace. Printful,
Yeah.
in-house printing, Printify, indirect, which we covered, which the 23 vendors to fulfill the Bella Canvas 2001s. So the other two are doing them actually in-house. What are some advantages, Travis, you think for our listeners for Gooten and Printful doing stuff in-house?
Yeah, I think the number one benefit that you have is a consistent quality, because even if you have one product that's fulfilled maybe in the West Coast US facility and one's on the East Coast US facility, they still have standard operating procedures. They're 90 I'm pretty dang sure that they're printing on the same equipment. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Printful uses Cornete for their DTG, and so they're using the same machine. They're using the same amount of pre-treat for that particular product, because they have SOPs
Right.
that tell all of that stuff, and they have automation systems that work all that out, to where you're going to get a pretty consistent product no matter what place your particular Printful DTG garment is coming from. Whereas, as I alluded to earlier in Printify, you don't have that assurance from vendor to vendor. Now, if you only work with one vendor, you have potentially delayed shipping times as well.
Sure.
However, like the Dream Junction, I believe they have a California warehouse, and then they have another one in Kentucky. So that may be a way to mitigate that. You'd have to kind of dig into each of the individual vendors to see if they have multiple
Sure.
locations, to minimize that shipping delay. But that's again part of your due diligence. The other thing that I noticed here that I said earlier that Gooten does in house. So obviously they do in house, but they also do marketplace. So I'm assuming that's similar to Printify. So it may be that Gooten, if they don't have a particular product, or they
Sure.
maybe only do certain products in house, and then they have a certain number of products or percentage of their products that they do just send out into the marketplace. My guess, though, is that they are curating those vendor lists, and it's not the customer's
Right.
responsibility to choose which place is going to. And so, in other words, if I'm going to have Gooten do my socks and they're using a vendor, they're always going to use that same vendor, so my quality isn't going to
Right.
vary. Whereas in Printify, maybe they have multiple vendors for socks, and I'm not sure. I'm going to have to select one and then only work with that one unless they go out of stock with
Right.
something, and then I do have that quality issue that I have to deal with.
Right. Right. So we talked about Dream Junction having multiple locations. One thing we want to talk about as well is these three particular POD companies have various warehouses throughout
Mhm.
not just the country but the world, right? So
Right.
Gooten has one in here in the U.S. They have a UK, Canada, Mexico, Australia, European Union, Korea, and Italy. And Printful has in USA, Latvia, which seems Latvia is kind of random, but it's there. Latvia, Canada, Mexico, Spain, Japan, Australia, Printify,
The
US, UK, Germany, and China.
the founder is actually from Latvia of Printful. That's why they
Oh,
have
so
that
it's
one.
not in
It's not
context,
as
then that's
yeah.
not random in context, knowing that the guy is context is king.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that doesn't make that quite as abstract. But
Hmm.
it's good to know if you're selling, Amazon, Europe, if you're going to be
Hmm.
fulfilling stuff through Printful, it's good to know that they have warehouses there in Europe because that's going to really cut down on shipping costs,
Yeah.
that all that kind of stuff.
The downside to Printful, because I did sell in Europe with Printful for a while, is
Yeah.
that because and a lot of my orders were coming from the UK, and so they were all being shipped from Latvia to the UK, and so VAT, which is value added tax for the EU, and it is a web that I cannot even comprehend. It's so freaking confusing to my USA brain, Um,
Yeah.
I was getting charged a lot for VAT fees that Printful was charging me because they were shipping from Latvia to the UK, and I had a UK VAT
Okay.
number. So if I would have known and would have been able to ship or ship from like a Gooten or a Printify customer back then, I don't know that they had UK facilities, but if I could have been shipping in the UK, I would have saved a little bit of money. So when you are shipping in Europe, and there's
Right.
probably some of our listeners that are actually in the UK, and they're already laughing at me because of my my VAT knowledge, my lack
Your
of vast
your
VAT
ignorance of
knowledge.
that.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, so that's a big consideration. Where is this stuff actually getting shipped from? Particularly when you're talking VAT is like 20%
Yeah.
in most of the countries. That's a lot of your profit. And it's not just on your profit, it's on like
Yeah.
the whole enchilada. It's on the sales price. So you have to really consider that and kind of figure
Right.
out how you're going
Right.
to deal with that. And hopefully I don't sound like an idiot and I've totally missed something and all of our European listeners are just laughing their heads off right now. But if we have missed something, please go to our Facebook group and be kind. But it's
Yes.
printondemandcast.com/Facebook and just say, hey, Travis, would love to chat with you about that and set you straight.
Yeah. I'd like to educate you on the ins and outs of VAT tax if you have a quick moment. They'd be very, very cordial about it.
that,
Yes.
that'd be
Um,
awesome.
so, yeah. So we want to know if we've missed anything. Again, printondemandcast.com/Facebook. You can go and join the group and join the
Mhm.
conversations. Travis, let's talk a little bit about shipping. I'll let you kind of take the wheel. When we're talking about shipping between the three, what are some things that we need to be aware of when thinking shipping and fulfillment times?
Yeah. So shipping and fulfillment times, and we do have an entire episode dedicated to shipping that you can go back. I can't remember
Yeah.
let's see, what episode was that? I'll just find it real fast just because I'm referencing it and I want to. Um, let's see, that is going to be episode 28 when we talk about shipping. But one of the things that shipping really breaks down into two things. I mean, well, when the customer thinks of shipping, because what the customer thinks of shipping is that when they press that buy it now button and enter in their payment details, and submit it, shipping time has started for them. Unfortunately, that's not true because there
Yeah.
is a production time that has to take place first. Then it
Right.
gets delivered to the post office or
Right.
FedEx or UPS or whatever. And that's when shipping takes over. And so when we say shipping times, there's really kind of two, there's a production time and there's a shipping time. And so we really want to make that delineation, because even if you get the thing out in 2 days, but USPS takes 6 to get it there, the customer still doesn't see that product for 8 days. And that feels like a long time. Or if you have a
Sure.
really quick shipping time, it's only
Yeah.
takes a day because, they're in the same town, but you didn't get it out for 6 days. It's the same experience, I
Right.
guess, to the customer. And so you really want to dial in the best case scenario for both the handling and the shipping. And so when we're looking at, Gooten and Printful and Printify, the one thing I'll say with Printify is that, their shipping rates and their production time is going to vary because, again, they're a marketplace, and you have to choose, and you're going to have to really drill into this and look at those production times before you choose your vendor on that particular product. So you're going to need to look at that as well as the samples and
Right.
all the other things we've talked about. Whereas when you're talking about Gooten and Printful, you basically are looking at where are their warehouses, where are my customers. If I'm in the EU, I want to kind of figure all that out. If I'm in the US, Printful has, I think they have, I don't remember how many production facilities they have in the US, but I know they have a couple. But again, you're going to need
Right.
to look at the production time and then the shipping time for most of your customers. Same thing with Gooten. So Gooten had some interesting, had a page on their website that we saw, um, that we looked at a little bit before we jumped on and pressed record. And they have a page that that they update. I don't know how often they update it, but it gives kind of a range of how long it's going to take to ship, and then
Right.
how long it's going to take to produce products. And I think it's based on their actual, kind of like a rolling average or something. And then they update it
Yeah.
based on the different categories of products that they're fulfilling. I thought that was really interesting. What'd you think of that, Josiah?
Yeah, it was interesting to see them break down the delineation because when we looked it up and doing the research for this episode, it said 12 days was just the standard US shipping time, which we both thought was
Insane.
crazy,
Yeah.
right? 12 days? Like, how do you, how can you keep customers happy in this age of Amazon Prime
Right.
with a 12-day fulfillment time? But on their website, they do break it down and let you know, 12 days is basically worst case scenario.
Yeah.
The product could spend anywhere from 1 to 6 days in production, and then 1 to 6 days in actual delivery, right, in actual
Hmm.
transit. So it could be that it's there in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, but 12 days is their worst
Worst
case
case
scenario. So
scenario.
it's something to keep in mind. Which, here when we're doing stuff, we tell people, hey, it can be 7 to 10 business days for delivery. The reality is we usually get stuff out next day or 2 days, right?
Right.
And then it's at their
Hmm.
door in 5. But we'd like to give ourselves that buffer should something come up that's out of stock or something we need to order in that we don't typically carry and we got to get it from California, what have you. So I understand,
Yeah.
kind of hedging your bets and padding it that way, just to give the customer, kind of managing expectations, which we talked about a lot. So I think
Hmm.
that's kind of what their strategy is here is with the 12 days. That's the worst case scenario. But when you look at it, when you're looking to sign up for something and you were to see it's going to take 12 days for something to get to my customer, that could be problematic, clearly.
Right.
But they offer, expedited shipping, overnight shipping,
Hmm.
international standard and international expedited. They're expedited for the U.S. is 6 days. Again, we can assume that's 3 days production, 3 days in transit, and just
Right.
kind of figure that that's kind of what they're thinking. Just splitting the numbers in half here. Overnight is 4 days. International to standard is 30 days. International expedited is 21 days. So that's kind of what you need to keep in mind when you're looking at Gooten in particular. Travis, when it comes to Printful, talk to us a little bit about the delivery, the
Hmm.
handling time, and the fees associated.
Yeah. So Printful is going to, at least on the, excuse me, at least on some of their advertised, on their website. Basically, what they're giving us is that
Yeah.
their standard is going to be 3 to 4 business days in the U.S., and that I believe, is just shipping. So you're still going to have the production time of whatever that particular product is. And so, different products are going to take different amounts of time to produce, because some of those products are going to come from, like, not all of the Printful facilities print all of the Printful products. And so you may have something that, is going to
Right.
the East Coast that only the West Coast Printful will actually print. So you have to keep that in mind.
Sure.
And so I would say it's probably going to end up very similar to what Gooten is. Like a worst case scenario is going to be that 10 to 12 days. But for the most part, you're going to get those products, to your customers. And, with producing and shipping them, probably around five to 6 business days. But they also have overnight next day delivery in the US. So, which is cool. I don't know if their overnight includes production, but I
Right.
don't believe it does, but it will get there as soon as it's produced. It'll get there the next day. The one thing that Printful did have an edge on, as far as compared to like Gooten or most of the vendors in Printify, was that their additional items were only $1.25. So the first, again, Bella Canvas 3001, the first one's $3.99 to ship it. The next one's only $1.25, whereas the other two were anywhere from $2 to, some of the vendors were just $4 for every single. Doesn't matter if you do 10 of them, you're going to
Right.
spend $40 on shipping. Um, so that's a little bit of a feather in Printful's cap. They do have
Sure.
1 to 3 business days in the U.S. For express, and they have same with Canada. They have international rates 5 to 20 days. Canada 6 to 10 days. Now they did. I think they recently opened up a Canadian fulfillment center, and it's pretty new. So my guess is that those Canadian dates, probably the actual shipping times on those Canadian orders have gone down. So if you are shipping in Canada, that's kind of a bonus to have a
Right.
local fulfillment center there, and you don't have to do any customs or anything like that, shipping it from the US, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're continuing here and kind of wrapping this particular main event up, one thing you need to know when it comes to samples, we've talked about, you want to know the quality of the product that you're getting. You want to
Right.
have it in your hands. You want to feel it. You want to see the print, so on and so forth. Which we totally understand that. Because you want that peace of mind. So all of them do offer sample orders. None of them are free. So Gooten is going to be, yes, you can get sample orders. Printify, the same thing. Yes, not free. I believe both of them consider them as basically normal production orders. You're just gonna pay the normal production price. Printful, however, will give you a 20% off discount on those sample orders, which is again, I think, a feather in their cap, just to say, hey, we understand that this is a sample for you, the customer, for you, our
Right.
customer. So we're going to give you a little bit of a discount there. But
Mm-hmm.
samples are, of course, very, very important to have. And then when it comes to payment, I'm sure all of you listening are thinking, this is great. What do I pay? What is this? What does this cost any money to me? Is there any premium subscriptions for discounts? No, there's not. For Gooten, there's not.
Mm-hmm.
For Printful, there's not, but they do. Travis, you let me know actually something that they're actually implementing now, which is pretty interesting. Why don't you let the listeners know what Printful just kind of started implementing when it comes to the premium subscription type
Yeah,
thing?
it's actually pretty cool. Like, what they're doing is basically rewarding people that sell a lot on their platform. And so
Yeah,
they have monthly discounts, basically based on the level or the amount that you sell. So if you sell more, you get a percentage discount. So if you sell $1,000 worth of products in the month, you get the bronze discount, which is 5%, and that moves up bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and then there's an executive one that you actually have to contact the sales department for anything over. If you sell $20,000 worth of print on demand goods in a
yeah,
month, you can contact their sales department. They'll give you a special discount. But anything between 10 and 20,000 is their platinum, and that's the one that they actually publish, and it's 9%. But if you sold $20,000 worth of goods in a month at 9% discount, that's $1,800 savings. That's
right.
a a great savings, even though as we've alluded to, Printful is probably the most expensive of all these companies. But you get up there, you start selling a lot, they're gonna try to reward you best they can, which is really cool. And then we've got
Yeah.
Printify,
Go ahead.
which
Yeah.
Printify has you don't have to do this, but they do have a premium subscription that you can pay. I think, is it $20 a month, Josiah? Is that what it was?
That sounds right.
Let's take a look. I think it's $19.99. I did it for a little while and it was $19.99. Oh, it looks like it's $29.99 a month or $29 a month. And if you do it yearly, it's $24.99.
Yeah.
So if you pay that every single month, you get premium pricing, so which is pretty amazing. So, for instance, on that Bella canvas, let's see, where is that Bella canvas? You want to play some like fun "Waiting for Me" music or something? Dun 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 dun. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's getting intense.
I wanted to find that one Bella canvas, awkward styles. Okay, so, well, where is it? I can't find it, so I can't even find how much it would cost. But maybe that was yeah. We should take that out in post, but we won't.
Transparency, and that is his final answer.
Yeah. So if you go to their catalog, I'll just do that real quick. If I go to their catalog and I look at the Bella canvas, the $6.76 is advertised. And that's that Awkward Styles company.
Sure.
It looks like I can get that price down to $5.91 with Printify Premium. So if I want to pay $25 a month, I can save, what is that? 85 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's just that product. Obviously, every single product in their catalog is going to have a Printify premium price. So you can save a lot of money, but you have to, it's kind of that trade-off, am I going to sell enough to cover that $25,
right.
or $29 monthly fee? But it's a cool feature if you are selling more on the platform. It works really well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the last thing we'll cover here is return policies, which is always good to know for you to inform your customers what that process looks like or doesn't look like. Gooten does not accept return orders. They claim that orders can be returned for a couple of unique scenarios, but they don't necessarily list what those are. So you kind of have to reach out through a request form and figure out what that looks like for you and for your customer, or for your customer have to figure that out for that particular situation. Printful refunds submitted within 4 weeks after the product was received for misprinted goods, defective or misprinted items, defective goods, damage, so on and so forth will be honored, but they don't honor anything on the buyer's part, which I think is perfectly reasonable.
Acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Lost packages. Have no claims made later than 4 weeks of the expected delivery date. So if your package doesn't show up and you wait, 2 months or 3 months or what have you, then you're out of luck. So I feel like Printful is pretty accommodating, especially in the print on demand space. I feel like their return policy is pretty accommodating.
Yeah.
And Printify offers free replacements can be made for products with manufacturing and printing errors, which again is perfectly reasonable, because that's something that they had control over. So it's something to be sure that you make your customers aware of, because there's nothing worse than trying to guide a customer through a return policy that you're saying exists, but it actually isn't a possibility. So it's always good to keep those things, be aware of those things.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty uniform across the board. Like in other words, if the print company screws up, they'll refund it. If the customer screws up, or as we found out in the case of Brittany, when she, laid out the design outside of the printable area, that's the Printful's customer, not Brittany's customer, but the customer of Printify or whoever it was,
Right.
they're the one who screwed up, and that is not going to be covered, as we found out, as
Right.
Brittany found out,
Yep.
because it
The
was
hard
user
way.
error. Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't
totally.
the manufacturer, actually screwing up the print. So,
Sure.
but that's totally reasonable. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense that they're going to cover what they screw up. But if you screw up, that's on you.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely reasonable. And again, just stuff to make yourself aware of. So, Travis, as we kind of wrap this up and put a bow on this particular episode, anything else you want to say? Closing thoughts, final thoughts with Travis Ross on this week's main event.
That's nice. I don't really have a lot more. I mean, we've kind of exhausted there's so many, like I said before, there's so many more companies that we could have, made this a lot longer and probably a lot more boring for people if we would have added more um, companies that are actually shipping this stuff. But
Sure.
these are three of the big ones. A lot of people start off and they use Printful, they use Printify,
Yeah.
and they kind of
Yep.
cut their teeth on these bigger. And there's definitely some benefits. One thing we didn't talk about was kind of user experience. And I'll say I've used Printful and I've used Printify. They both have decent user interfaces. One of the complaints when we were looking at Gooten was that they didn't have as good of a user
Yeah.
interface.
Was
But
this intuitive? Right.
yeah, I would say my favorite interface of all of them was Printful's. But you pay for that. I mean, they are the
Yeah.
highest priced company. I can't remember what the coffee mugs are, but they're, for an 11-ounce mug, it's like $7. I think it's like $6.99 or something like that, which, seems like a lot of money when you can get them on Printify for like, $4.50, $5. So, and if
Right.
you use the Printify Premium, you could probably get them for $4. So it's just, you really, there's just a lot more, I think, hoops to jump through with Printify because they're a
Yeah.
marketplace and you have to like test and check and sample and all of that. With Printful, it's just kind of easier. And I think their prices reflect that really. And again, I
Sure.
don't have a whole lot of experience with Gooten, but they seem kind of like a middle ground. They do have a lot of products though. From what I could see, they have, a couple hundred products, whereas Printful
Yeah.
doesn't have as many products as Gooten does. Now, Printify obviously has the most because they're pulling from all these different, vendors.
Sure.
But
Sure.
those are some more things that you need to consider when you're kind of deciding on which company you're going to go with. I mean, I don't have as many products as Printful. You don't have as many
Sure.
product offerings as Printful.
Right.
But I can't pick up the phone and call Printful and talk to the tech that's
Yeah.
going to print my shirt. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
or if I had an
Yeah.
issue, I can't like talk to anybody about it or, things
Right.
like that. So there
Yep.
are so many caveats to this. And I feel like we talk about it every time we talk about printing fulfillment companies. My recommendation to people, once you've kind of cut your teeth and you have some selling, some sales prowess and you're kind of rolling, is to try to reach out to a local printer, somebody that you can have a relationship with.
Yeah.
I really do think that if you can have a relationship, you'll be happier in the long run, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Would you agree with
Awesome.
that, Josiah?
Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely. And like you said, this is just three of so many that are out there. So like we
Mhm.
said, earlier in the episode, we encourage you guys to go out and research. We just gave you three options, but there's so much out there, so many POD solutions out there, including Make Your Mark Design and What For Apparel. So you can look both of us up too, and you can call us and you'll hear the voice on the other end of the phone that you hear each and every week on Wednesday afternoons at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, telling you what's going to happen with your particular product. So, so many options out there. If you guys feel like we missed anything, if you want to bring anything into our attention, do you have experience with Gooten that Travis and I don't have? Let us know. And the best way to do that is to join the Facebook group. Again, printondemandcast.com/Facebook. Join the group, the conversation, the community, and let us know what you guys would like us to talk about, what you want to hear more about, and let us know if we've missed something. You might end up on a point of interest like like our friend, remind me, I
John
can't believe I just spaced
West.
his name. But John West, I feel so bad for blanking his name just now. But you could be on the point of interest if you shout us out on the Facebook group and let us know of something that we missed or something that we need to know about. So again, join the Facebook group. You can find the show printondemandcast.com. You can email us to info@printondemandcast.com if for some reason you are at Facebook adversed at this point. You can reach us there as well. We are available on all the major podcast platforms, including Stitcher now. Stitcher is a new one we just dropped. We're available on 9 podcast platforms, including all the big guys like Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, so on and so forth. So thank you guys so much for listening again. For Josiah, easy for me to say. I am Josiah. For Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand cast.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.